Hey everyone, and welcome back. I've got a fun story for you today. The whole Apex hacking campaign that's also been an awareness campaign, and the whole thing is rather loopy and strange because it then ties in to a cancelled free-to-play Titanfall spin-off by Nexon that people wanted to get resurrected. It is really loopy, so let's get into it, right? If you're not sure about what's been happening, well, Titanfall, and to a lesser extent Titanfall 2, have been the victim of hacking and DDoS over the last while. Of course, with Titanfall 2, you can at least play the single player, but, obviously not with Titanfall 1, which has experienced periods of utter unplayability because of the Surgers being besieged by a network of bots capable of overrunning and shutting basically everything down. The game has been largely playable online since July update, and then activity against Titanfall 2 appears to at least slow down. Now, back at the start of July, in what looks like an attempt to draw attention to the then ongoing Titanfall crisis, Apex Legends was hacked to basically replace server playlists with this message for SaveTitanfall.com. Bruh, Titanfall 1 is being attacked, so is Apex. Now, the funny thing is that SaveTitanfall.com apparently has got nothing to do with this attack, at least so they say. Now, the newer things that have happened is that SaveTitanfall.com has released a 40-page document containing a massive amount of info pulled from Discord, DMs, and Twitter, implicating a number of well-known hackers in the Apex Legends hacks that have been going on, as well as the ongoing campaign against Titanfall and a spate of DDoS attacks against Titanfall 2 streamers. Now, there's a lot of information, more to go through here, but the crux of it is that there's a user called P0358. There's a Titanfall fan that rose to prominence because of a popular Medium post called How to Fix Titanfall that reportedly collaborated closely with a hacker-filled Discord server to plan the Apex Legends attack. Apparently, with the whole end goal being to resurrect Titanfall Online, which is a cancelled free-to-play spin-off developed by Nexon that basically was there to bring Titanfall to the Asian market. And they want that resurrected. I would assume because if what you want is a Titanfall gameplay experience, then that's probably going to give it to you, perhaps in a way that would have more content and stuff than the base Titanfall games. Maybe that's sort of the overall goal. So yes, their plan seems to have been to bring Titanfall to its knees while simultaneously showing that they've got the means to fix everything in the hopes of getting Respawn Entertainment to hand over Titanfall's source code. Interesting plan. Not having access to the source code apparently has been a major roadblock for this whole Titanfall Online project. And it's an interesting thing where somebody called Red Shield, who is one of the figures implicated by that report, they spoke to Eurogamer in April and said that the community's got an in-depth knowledge and experience with the source engine and how Titanfall's files work. And they have people who would, in a heartbeat, spend money. And they ask that Respawn solves the issue permanently by giving over access and control over the Titanfall 1 servers with permission to moderate, to ban users, and if I can be so bold, to even mod the game. Perhaps just one server. Now, Respawn apparently has expressed interest in this idea in the past, and of all the solutions to the exploit problems and player retention problems that they've come up with, apparently community-run servers are the strongest solution. And I certainly would say so, right? Community-run servers are a great thing whenever they can be supported by a game. It would certainly solve a bunch of the issues here. I can, though, see a company being, not really being hyped at the idea of handing over their source code. And the whole story is just really bizarre, with it being like a hacking campaign to raise awareness and all of that. Now, after that, Red Shield later released a statement that was denying the Remnant Fleet Discord server's involvement in the stuff that was going on, pledging to help show that none of the plotting actually took place there, where basically the server's getting locked down in the interest of transparency. Red Shield was talking with Upper Echelon for a few hours, giving Upper Echelon a tour of the secret channels to get their fill. Everyone will get their fill, everything will be cleared up, and all the people can get back to Titanfall. And he said in the meantime, he wants everyone to know that they are not behind the Titanfall 1, 2, or Apex Legends attacks. And then P0358 has also been very vocal about wanting to work with Respawn, or for Respawn. And the belief is that that would give him easier access to the game's source code in the hopes of resurrecting Titanfall Online. And there's several screenshots of him expressing joy at the apparent demise of Titanfall, which I guess is in the hopes of attracting attention for the cause. I don't really know if this is how a company is going to respond. Respawn have publicly been fairly unimpressed with the whole situation. Their comms director basically on Twitter said that, well, the Sunday's attacks were tied to an awareness campaign that they've publicly acknowledged weeks ago and earlier. It's not an awareness problem. It's that the DDoSing is really hard to solve. The team has never stopped working on DDoS and anti-cheat. It's just an endless whack-a-mole war. And on the DDoS front, he says, we will solve this. When we do, I promise you, it won't because hackers made us aware by ruining a holiday that they achieved nothing of value. A really weird story. Now, this post from Rigney does come before a late July patch that did help to stabilize Titanfall. But just the whole thing is weird. The whole thing is weird, and we'd call attention to Upper Echelon, who did stellar coverage of this ongoing situation, alongside a whole big stack of historical context and some more intrigue. Now, there is another fun story, and this one truly is a story. Somebody forcefully extracted customer service from EA. And basically what happened to this individual, this comes from TabooBat on the Apex Legends subreddit. And this is the story that we found, and we thought it shows the plight of customers and how people can truly just get boned, and how a company oftentimes can just know that your account with them is not worth you really fighting. Not for TabooBat. TabooBat just decided to go in and fight for it. So here's basically the incident, right? This guy logs back in to their Apex account. The key bindings are different, mouse settings are different, they're at a higher battle pass level than when they last left, crafting materials are gone. So they realize their account had been hacked, immediately changed the password, enabled two-factor authentication, all of that stuff. And looking through the changes to the account, it says here, I noticed that some very specific crafting materials that rhymed with heirloom bards that I had recently purchased with real money had been spent on something that I didn't want. I figured I should contact EA support and tell them about the hack and ask them to remove the items the hacker had purchased and either refund the materials or give me the item that I intended to purchase. One would think this would be a simple issue to solve, if it is clear and cut. Well, doesn't end up being useful, right? So, live chat was the initial goal. Not much success. About changing the item, the chat representative said, unfortunately, we can't make any changes because it's a live game. Then there was phone support. The phone support person seemed kind of helpful. She informed him that, yes, she could see suspicious logins from halfway across the world, but she was unable to confirm that the purchase was a result of the hack, despite there being a suspicious login and then the purchase with nothing else in between. I understand how, yes, the account could be hacked and then a purchase could be made and they could be unrelated events, but considering the sum of money that's involved here, just be reasonable. I mean, it seems high probability. Suspicious login, account purchase made, a user's settings changed to what they no longer use. I mean, some of that stuff could be faked, I suppose. Just a VPN changing your settings, but think about the risk profile of something like this. What do you lose if you just do good customer service? It reminds me of Amazon, actually. Amazon, for many criticisms of Amazon, but generally with customer service, they're just like, give them what they want. That's generally what Amazon seems to be like. You just wonder what EA actually gain from being like this. So yes, this guy bashes his head against the wall for a while, gives up, then hopes to find a more reasonable support agent. The next three that they talked to were either malicious or incompetent, or somewhere in between that. They were profoundly uninterested in helping me with anything, and even lied several times. And here's one very funny conversation. I talked with another support agent who told me the timings of the suspicious logins, but I didn't write them down. Can we review them so I can take notes? Sorry, we can't see login information. The previous agent told me there was a login from India on the 7th. Is that correct? Let me see. Yes, that's correct. And there was another login from Hong Kong the 13th, right? Yes, I can see that. So you can tell me any other login records you have in that time frame. Sorry, we can't see login information. Even though the OP literally confirmed that the customer service staff could see login info. So basically, they give up. They give up and they realize this is a load of bullshit. 2 days, and this is great. So EA is just keeping his money, right? So he issues a chargeback. EA responded as any good company would by reaching out and trying to understand the dispute and resolve it. Just kidding. 2 days after the chargeback, they banned my EA account. Not just my Apex account, my whole EA account, which included a number of other purchase games. And this is what kicks off the fight. And the fight is pretty interesting. So the ban angered this guy. And this is someone who, didn't use my my EA account a ton outside of Apex, so, could spin up another account for that. But what EA did is just rude. I thought, hey, it's a pandemic, I have free time, let's find out how the small claim court works. Now, it turns out the small claims court is a short-lived dream because of an arbitration clause in the terms of service. So you first got to go through arbitration. So he gives that a shot. I mean, worst case scenario for them, the account stays banned, but EA's got to pay some arbitration fees. So the gist of it is that they have to send an actual real paper letter detailing the dispute, wait for 30 days, and if it's not resolved, then file for arbitration with the American Arbitration Association. So it was time for arbitration. Taboo Bat spends an extra $3 for certified mail so that, it would definitely get there. EA then don't respond. Then another mail is sent after 3 weeks saying in no uncertain terms that, in this case, that I will go to arbitration if they didn't respond. They don't respond, so it's time for an arbitration case. This is such a good story, and I so commend spending the lockdown time in this way, just sticking it to a company. The terms of service says that if you inform EA that you can't pay the arbitration fees, then they'll cover them. So in my previous 2 letters, I ended with the line, this letter serves as notice under EA Terms of Service, Section 15, Subsection C, Paragraph 1. EA agrees to pay all arbitration fees if arbitration begins. The AAA website was a little confusing, but their support was actually helpful and informed me I could put $0 in the amount due field and add a note to the case saying the Terms of Service allowed it. So it worked. Arbitration forms filed. So it takes about a month for the AAA to actually review and create the case. Nothing moves quickly here. About a month after, I got an email from EA's lawyer saying they hadn't had any time to review the case and the deadline was coming up, so could they have a 2-week extension? Now, he's not sure what would have happened had he said no, but he thought he'd be agreeable and told them that 1 week should be plenty. Cut a deal. Exactly 7 days later, the lawyers attached their response to the case. In it, they basically say that I hadn't sent them dispute letters, so the case should be dismissed. And even otherwise, I was just a dick who violated all their terms of service, and I don't deserve anything, and frankly should be owing them money for wasting their time with the case. Turns out this was an interesting thing for EA to say, because OP then wrote up a response that point by point went over it, about how that section of the terms of service didn't apply, about how EA got facts of the case wrong here and there, and especially said it was satisfying having the email copy of the letters that had been sent earlier, saying, well, actually, I sent you letters on 3 separate occasions. Here's the tracking information. You signed them. Right? Because the postage was such that the sender gets confirmation of the signing to accept the letter. You signed them, so I'm sorry that I thought you would retain them for your records. Get fucking wrecked, EA. So this case goes quiet for another month, and then the day before the arbiter was assigned, which would have cost EA $1,350, he was contacted by a very friendly EA employee who asked if they could perhaps reach a settlement and drop the arbitration case. The terms of the settlement are confidential, but suffice to say at this point EA was open to some negotiation, and the end result was to the OP's satisfaction. And then they just end by basically saying, this is a load of bullshit. If 1,000 people did this all the way through to the arbitration process, It would cost EA 1.8 million, which might make them notice. At the very least, a bunch of pissed off EA lawyers having to deal with what they probably think is stupid bullshit that's beneath them. That would probably piss off the EA legal department to the point where they'd try to kick up a stink internally, I would imagine. But yeah, he just goes through the whole process and the whole case. And this is just, it's over so little, right? It's only over a few game purchases and some in-game items, but the principle of it's just wrong, right? EA's support being so goddamn useless is just wrong. So this person has kicked up a stink, got what they were due. It is very unfortunate that somebody would have to do this to get what should be done in the first instance, plus maybe with just some, supporting information in a live chat. This should have been resolved in a few days. That it took this long and involved a threat of arbitration is insane. And I just thought it was important to bring this up. Because it's not a big story in the industry, right? This is just one guy's story. But this is the point. It's you hear when a YouTuber gets their account deleted or something, and, they kick up a stink. But it's if it's a large YouTuber and all their mates can chime in, well, yeah, they've got some clout. They can get attention. But this shows how your just regular customer is not treated well by the company. That's why it's important to bring this up. It's just one isolated incident, and I'm sure that many other people have had decent experiences with their support, but this stuff shouldn't be happening. I think people should be aware. It's also a stark reminder when it comes to these live service games that, what was this person's account value to EA if they were just willing to let this problem happen? How can people, if there is a large hacking problem going on with accounts, how can people feel particularly safe in making online purchases when this stuff happens and then they don't have the assurance that customer service will deal with it in a reasonable fashion? So there you go. I would just say absolutely good on you to Taboo Bat. I think what you did is just awesome. High effort, fun use of your lockdown time, and something that is for the greater good and has raised a whole bunch of awareness. So thank you to Taboo Bat, and also thank you for listening, because that is it for today's video. I hope you found it interesting. Certainly two different versions of wacky for today's story, but yeah, I'll see you next time.